The battlefield was silent now. Smoke rose in dark clouds. The ground was broken, full of metal pieces and burning fires. In the middle of this ruined land, an alien woman lay still. Her name was Serenia. Her body was weak, her skin pale with pain, and her eyes heavy. She had fought for so long. She had run, she had screamed, and she had bled. But now there was nothing left. The war was over for her. Her people were gone. Her ship was destroyed. She was all alone. Serenia closed her eyes and whispered to herself, her voice broken like glass. "This is the end. Let me sleep. Let me die." She felt the cold air against her face. She waited for the last breath. Darkness began to wrap around her mind. She felt her body sinking into the ground, her spirit almost ready to leave. But then something touched her. It was warm. A hand. A human hand. Her eyes opened in shock. She blinked fast. And there he was, a human man, holding her in his arms. His eyes were sharp, his face covered in dust, but his grip was strong. For a moment, she could not breathe. This was impossible. Humans were enemies. Humans were killers. Humans were the reason her world was dying. Why would a human touch her with care? The man spoke, his voice low but steady. "Stay awake. Don't close your eyes." She wanted to fight him, to push him away, but her body had no strength. Her lips moved slowly. "Why? Why are you helping me?" she whispered. The man did not answer. At once, he pressed his hand against her wound, trying to stop the bleeding. His other hand held her steady so she would not fall. His eyes looked around the battlefield as if danger was close. "You don't have to die here," he finally said. His voice was firm, but there was something gentle in it too. Serenia stared at him. Her heart beat fast. She was too weak to move. But her mind was burning with questions. Why save her? Why risk his life? The human lifted her higher in his arms. He looked over his shoulder. There was fear in his eyes, but also determination. "We can't stay here," he said quickly. "They are." Coming, Serenia felt the air change. The sound of footsteps echoed in the distance. Heavy, metallic footsteps. Her people, her soldiers. They were hunting survivors. They would kill anyone they found, even her, because she had failed. Her breath caught in her throat. She looked at the human again. He was sweating, his jaw tight. He seemed ready to run, but he did not drop her. "Why?" she asked again, her voice trembling. "Why save me? I am your enemy." The man's eyes met hers. For a second, the war, the fire, the hate all fell silent. "Because no one deserves to die like this," he said. Her chest shook. She wanted to cry, but tears would not come. His words cut through the fog of death inside her. The footsteps were closer now. Voices shouted in the alien tongue, sharp and cruel. They were searching, hunting. The human man bent lower, pulling her against his chest. His movements were fast but careful. He carried her away from the open battlefield and into the ruins of a broken wall. The smoke covered them. His breathing was heavy, but his arms never let go. Serenia's head rested against him. She could feel his heart beat strong, alive. She had never been this close to a human before. She had always been told humans were monsters. But this man, he felt different. Her thoughts blurred, but one question kept circling inside her mind. Who is he? The shouting grew louder. Strange shadows moved in the smoke. The human crouched low, hiding them in the rubble. His hand held her tight. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Serenia closed her mouth. She could feel her breath shaking in her throat. Her people were near, so near she could hear the sound of their weapons charging. If they found her with a human, they would kill them both. The human's eyes never stopped moving. He watched every shadow, every sound. His muscles were ready to fight or run. Serenia looked at him again. The dust on his face, the cuts on his arms, the fire in his eyes. He was risking his life for her, an alien, an enemy. Her body was weak, but inside, something new began to grow. Something she thought she had lost. Hope. She whispered one last word before her eyes grew heavy again. "Who are you?" The man's face softened, but he did not answer. Instead, he shifted his grip and moved deeper into the ruins. The footsteps faded slowly behind them, but the danger was not gone. Serenia's world was changing. She had closed her eyes to die. But when she opened them, she saw something impossible. A human holding her, and in that moment, she realized her story was not over. The ruins were dark, filled with falling dust and broken metal. Daniel, the human, carried Serenia close against his chest. His arms ached from her weight, but he did not stop. Every step echoed with danger. Serenia's eyes opened slowly. Her vision was still blurred, but she could feel his heartbeat against her ear. Strong, steady, alive. She had not expected to wake again. But here she was, still breathing, still. Held by the enemy, her mind was full of questions. Why was he helping? Why was she not left to die? Her people would never have done this for a human. The man's boots crunched on the broken ground. He moved carefully, but fast, weaving between walls of stone and half-buried machines. His breathing was heavy, but his grip never loosened. Serenia finally found the strength to speak. Her voice was weak, but sharp with suspicion. "Human, let me go. You don't need me." Daniel glanced down at her, his eyes narrowing. He did not stop walking. "You are bleeding too much. If I leave you here, you won't survive 10 minutes. Serenia shook her head faintly. "Why do you care? I am your enemy." Daniel's jaw tightened. His silence stretched as if he was holding back words. Then he finally said, "Not today, not to me." She frowned, her heart twisting with confusion. She wanted to argue, but another wave of pain shot through her wound. She gasped softly, and Daniel pressed his hand harder against the injury to slow the blood. The world spun around her. The smell of smoke, the sound of distant shouts was all fading into a blur. But one thing was sharp and clear. The humans' eyes, there was no hate in them, only resolve. They reached the shadow of a broken building, its walls cracked, but still standing. Daniel pushed the heavy metal door aside with his shoulder and carried her inside. The place was silent, except for the sound of dripping water. He lowered her carefully onto the cold ground, his movements slow, almost gentle. Then he knelt beside her, tearing a strip of cloth from his uniform. Serenia stared at him in silence. His hands worked quickly, pressing the cloth against her wound, tying it tight to stop the bleeding. His fingers were rough, but there was care. In his touch, "You should not waste your time," she whispered. Her eyes blinked heavily, but she forced herself to keep looking at him. "Your people would call me an animal, a monster." Daniel looked at her, his face shadowed in the dim light. "I don't care what they call you. I see someone who doesn't deserve to die like this." For the first time, Serenia felt something strange. Not fear, not anger. Something softer, something dangerous. Could she trust him? Before she could think more, Daniel's head jerked up. Outside, the sound of metal footsteps grew louder. Voices barked orders in Serenia's native tongue. They were close. Daniel pressed a finger to his lips, signaling silence. His eyes locked on hers. She understood, if they found them together. They were both dead. He moved quickly, dragging a broken shelf across the door to block it. Then he crouched low beside her. His hand went to the weapon at his side. Serenia's breath shook. She knew those voices. soldiers from her own unit. If they saw her lying in the arms of a human, they would not rescue her. They would execute her as a traitor. She whispered, barely a sound. They will not spare me. Daniel's voice was a whisper too, steady and cold. Then we stay hidden, and if they find us, we fight. Saranya's chest tightened. Fight together, human and alien. The thought was unthinkable, yet here it was, real before her eyes. The footsteps came closer. Shadows stretched across the cracks in the wall. For a tense moment, everything froze. Daniel's hand hovered over his weapon. Saranya, though weak, reached for the small blade strapped to her belt. Their eyes met. In that silent exchange, something passed between them, a fragile thread of trust. But after a few moments, the voices began to fade. The soldiers moved further down the ruins, their search pulling them away. Daniel let out a breath, slow and quiet. He leaned back against the wall, his muscles finally relaxing, though his eyes stayed alert. Saranya watched him, studying his face. Dust clung to his skin. Sweat ran down his temple. His uniform was torn. He was clearly exhausted, but he had not stopped. Not once. "You risked your life," she said softly. "Why?" Daniel looked at her for a long moment. His answer was simple. "Because I made a promise to myself, never to leave anyone behind." Saranya's heart trembled at his words. Her people had left her behind without hesitation. But this human, an enemy, had chosen differently. Her body still hurt. Her vision still blurred. But in that moment, she felt something she thought was gone forever. Hope. She closed her eyes, but not to surrender. This time, she closed them because she trusted that when she opened them again, the human would still be there, and he was. Sitting close, guarding her in silence, ready for whatever danger came next in the ruins of war, where enemies should have been killing each other. Something impossible was beginning, a bond. The rescue had only just begun. The silence in the ruined shelter did not last long. Saranya's eyes opened to the sound of distant rumbling. At first, it was faint like thunder, but soon it grew louder, closer, sharper. Daniel was already standing, his body tense, his eyes fixed on the cracks in the wall. "They are back," he whispered. Saranya struggled to sit up, her wound burning with pain. She could hear them too, now the metallic steps of alien soldiers. The hum of their energy weapons, the cruel voices calling out to each other. They were sweeping the ruins, hunting for survivors. Her heart sank. "If they find us?" Daniel moved quickly, crouching beside her. His voice was calm but urgent. "We can't stay here. If they search this building, we're trapped." Saranya tried to stand, but her legs trembled. Her strength was almost gone. Daniel didn't hesitate. He lifted her again into his arms. She wanted to protest, but the words never left her mouth. His grip was firm, his pace steady. They slipped out the back of the ruined building, moving into the shadows of a narrow passage. The ground was uneven, scattered with broken wires and glass. Every step Daniel took crunched faintly, but he pressed forward, careful to stay low. Saranya's eyes scanned the dim ruins around them. Her people's patrol lights flashed in the distance, beams cutting through smoke and dust. The sound of heavy machines followed, vehicles rolling over the broken ground. "They are too many," she whispered. "You should leave me. Alone, you might escape." Daniel shook his head without slowing. Not an option. The way he said it made her chest ache. He didn't even think about abandoning her. The rumble behind them grew louder. Soldiers were moving, fast, closing the distance. Daniel's eyes darted around, searching for a way out. Ahead, a collapsed tunnel stretched into the ground, half buried in debris. He carried her toward it. The opening was narrow, dark, and full of dust, but it was the only path. He crouched down and slid into the tunnel with her in his arms. The air inside was cold and heavy, the walls close and rough. The echo of their movements bounced in the hollow space. Serenia felt her chest tighten. She had never been this close to a human, never been carried by one. And yet, as fear clawed at her, she felt strangely safe. The tunnel twisted deeper underground. Daniel's breath grew heavier, his arms shaking slightly from the weight. But he never slowed. Behind them, the sound of footsteps entered the tunnel. Voices barked orders in her language. They had been spotted. Daniel cursed under his breath. His grip shifted, and he pressed Serenia against the wall for a moment. "Stay here. Don't move." Before she could argue, he pulled a small device from his belt, a flare. He threw it down the tunnel. The sudden red light flashed, filling the passage. For a moment, the shadows danced wildly. The soldiers shouted, confused by the sudden glare. Daniel took the chance to move again, carrying Serenia deeper, faster. The tunnel opened into a wide chamber filled with broken machines. Old alien tech lay scattered like skeletons, wires hanging from the ceiling. "Where are we?" Serenia whispered. Daniel glanced around. Some kind of old power station. "It's abandoned. Might buy us time." But before he could finish, a sharp noise echoed. Metal boots. Soldiers had followed. Serenia's pulse raced. She looked at Daniel, fear burning in her eyes. "They will kill us both." Daniel set her down gently behind a pile of broken machines. He crouched beside her, his weapon ready. His voice was calm, steady, almost reassuring. "Then we make them. Work for it." Serenia wanted to protest, but something in his eyes silenced her. She reached for the small blade on her belt. She could barely hold it, but she tightened her grip. The soldiers entered the chamber. Their lights cut across the broken floor, scanning every corner. One voice barked an order, and the group spread out. Daniel moved silently between shadows, his body low, his weapon steady. He waited until one soldier came close, then struck fast. A single shot, silent but deadly. The alien fell, his body collapsing against the metal floor. The others turned at the sound. Shouts filled the air. The chamber exploded with chaos. Daniel fired again, then ducked behind cover as energy bolts scorched the walls. Sparks flew, smoke filled the air. Serenia's heart pounded. She had no strength, no power left. But when one soldier came close to her hiding spot, raising his weapon, she acted. She forced herself to stand, her blade flashing weakly in the dim light. She struck at his arm. The weapon clattered to the floor. The soldier snarled, but before he could grab her, Daniel's shot struck him down. Serenia fell back, gasping, her body trembling. Daniel rushed to her side, pulling her close again. His eyes scanned the chamber. "We can't fight them all," he said, through clenched teeth. "We need to run." He spotted another tunnel at the far side of the chamber. Without hesitation, he lifted her again and sprinted across the floor. Energy bolts streaked past them, lighting the shadows. The heat of one blast burned close to Serenia's shoulder, but Daniel never slowed. They dove into the tunnel just as another explosion rocked the chamber. Dust and smoke swallowed everything behind them. Daniel's breathing was ragged now, but he didn't stop. His arms held her tight, his pace desperate but determined. Serenia clung to him weakly. Her mind spun with confusion, fear, and something she could not name. Why did he fight so hard for her? Why risk everything for someone? Who should have been his enemy? The tunnel grew darker, quieter. The sounds of pursuit faded behind them. For now, they had escaped. But Serenia knew it was not over. The hunt would continue. The soldiers would not stop until they were found. And yet, as she looked up at the human carrying her through the darkness, She felt something she had not felt in years. Not fear, not despair, but the faint spark of trust. The tunnel stretched on, narrow and damp, the air heavy with dust. Daniel's breath was rough, his steps uneven now. Still, he carried Saranya in his arms, refusing to let her fall. His uniform was torn, his arms streaked with dirt and blood, but his grip stayed strong. At last, the path opened into a hollow chamber carved into the earth. Old metal walls curved around them, covered in strange markings and wires that no longer worked. This place had been built long ago, maybe as a shelter or a storage room. Daniel set Saranya down gently against the wall. She winced as her wound pressed against the cold floor, but she stayed silent. He crouched beside her, checking the cloth tied around her side. Blood still leaked through, but slower now. For a while, neither spoke. The silence was heavy, broken, only by their breathing. Daniel's eyes kept scanning the shadows, his weapon resting in his hand. Finally, Saranya whispered, "Why? Why do you risk so much for me?" Daniel's eyes flicked to hers. For a long moment, he said nothing. His face was unreadable, his jaw set like stone. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. "Because I'm not what you think," he said quietly. Saranya frowned, confused. "You are human, soldier. Enemy. That is enough." Daniel shook his head. "Not just a soldier. I was sent here on a different mission. Not to kill, but to learn." Eyes narrowed. "Learn about us." He nodded. "There are some humans, some like me, who don't believe in endless war. We wanted to understand your people. Find a way to end the blood." Saranya let out a bitter laugh, though it was weak and broken. "End the blood. My kind would never stop. They believe war is survival. If you had met them, you would see. They call humans monsters. They say peace is weakness." Daniel looked down at the dirt, his hands tightening into fists. "Funny. They say the same about your people. They call you monsters, too." The chamber grew quiet again. The truth between them was heavy, like a shadow neither could escape. After a long silence, Saranya whispered, "And now? Do you still believe in peace?" Daniel's eyes lifted to hers. They were tired eyes, scarred by battle, but inside them burned a steady light. "I have too," he said simply. "If I stop believing, then I become like the rest. I refuse to be like them." Saranya felt something stir in her chest. For so long she had believed her people were right, that humans were nothing but killers. But this man, this human, had carried her, fought for her, saved her again and again. Her thoughts tangled with doubt. Could everything she had been told be a lie? Her voice was soft when she spoke again. "You should know. I was not loyal either. I questioned the war. I asked my leaders why we must keep killing. Do you know what they did? They abandoned me, left me on the battlefield to die." Daniel's eyes sharpened with anger. "So they betrayed you too." Saranya's throat tightened. For years she had carried that shame in silence, the weight of rejection pressing down on her. But here, with this human, she felt the words finally break free. "I thought my life was over," she whispered. "Until you." Daniel looked at her. For a long time, the air between them grew heavier, charged with something unspoken. For the first time since the war began, Saranya did not feel alone. But the moment did not last. A faint crackle echoed through the chamber static like a broken radio. Daniel's head snapped up, eyes scanning. He followed the sound to a small device buried in the rubble. He cursed under his breath. "Old comes. They're still active. That means someone is listening." Saranya's stomach twisted. "My people?" Daniel nodded grimly. "They might know we're here." The fragile peace between them tightened with new fear. If her soldiers tracked them down, there would be no mercy for either of them. Daniel stood, his weapon ready again. His voice was calm, but firm. "We'll move soon, but before we do, you need to know this if we're found. They'll call me a traitor for saving you. They'll kill me without hesitation." Serenia's eyes widened. She had expected her own people to kill her, but she had not thought of his side. "So both our worlds want us dead," she whispered. Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "Then maybe it's time we stop living for them." The words hit her like a spark. Something inside her chest shifted. For the first time, she felt the walls of hate begin to crack. She leaned back against the wall, her voice low but steady. "You are strange, human. I don't know if you are a fool or the only one who sees the truth." Daniel crouched again, meeting her gaze. His eyes were serious, unshaken, maybe both. Their eyes locked in silence. For that moment, the war outside seemed far away. Two enemies, broken by betrayal, bound together by survival. But the world did not allow peace for long. From the tunnel behind them came a faint noise, footsteps, slow but growing closer. Serenia's body stiffened. Daniel's weapon rose again. The chamber that had been filled with confessions and fragile trust now filled with the cold breath of danger. The secrets had been revealed, but survival would demand more than words. The silence inside the underground chamber broke like glass. Footsteps echoed down the tunnel, slow but heavy. The sound bounced off the walls, each step louder, closer. Daniel's body tensed. He raised his weapon, eyes fixed on the dark opening. Serenia pressed her back against the wall, clutching her small blade, though her hand shook with weakness. Neither spoke. They didn't need words. Both knew what was coming. The first shadow appeared. An alien soldier, tall and armored, stepped into the chamber. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Behind him, two more figures followed, their weapons humming. With deadly power, Daniel's finger tightened on the trigger. He whispered quickly to Serenia, without looking away from the enemy. "Stay low. Don't move unless you have to." Serenia wanted to argue, to say she wasn't helpless, but the truth burned in her chest. She was too weak. Still, she nodded. The soldiers scanned the chamber, their voices sharp in Serenia's language. She understood every word. "Search the place. Kill the human if you find him. Bring the traitor back alive." Her heart stopped. They wanted her alive only to punish her. To make an example, the soldier in front stepped further in. His boots scraped against the metal floor. His weapon pointed into the shadows. He was only a few steps away from Daniel's position. Then a flash of light. A shot rang out. The soldier fell with a cry, his weapon clattering to the ground. Chaos exploded in the chamber. The others shouted, firing blindly into the dark. Sparks rained from the walls as energy bolts struck metal. Daniel moved fast, slipping between broken machines, firing with deadly precision. One soldier went down, his armor smoking from the blast. The third soldier roared, his voice echoing. He turned his weapon toward Serenia's corner. Her blood froze. She could not move fast enough. But Daniel was faster. He rushed forward, tackling. The soldier before the shot could fire. They crashed to the floor, weapons scattering. The alien soldier was stronger, his armored fists striking hard. Daniel grunted with each blow, his body shaking from the impact. But he did not let go. He slammed his elbow into the soldier's faceplate, then rolled, grabbing for his weapon. Serenia's hands shook. But she forced herself to rise. Her blade felt heavy, but she tightened her grip. The soldier shoved Daniel back, raising his fist for a final strike. Serenia moved. With a weak but desperate cry, she thrust the blade into the soldier's side. The soldier froze, a low growl. Escaping his throat, Daniel didn't waste the chance. He grabbed his weapon and fired point blank. The soldier dropped, motionless. Silence returned, broken only by Daniel's ragged breathing. He looked at Serena, his chest heaving. Her blade was still in her hand, stained and trembling. "You saved me," he said quietly. She wanted to answer, but her legs gave out. She fell to the floor, gasping. Daniel caught her before she hit the ground, lowering her gently. "Easy, easy now," he whispered. His hands checked her wound again. She had lost more blood during the fight, and her skin was pale. Her eyes fluttered. "I told you, they would not spare me." Daniel's jaw tightened. He looked at the 3 bodies on the ground. His voice was cold steel. "Then we fight together, until the end." Serenya's heart beat faster. Together, the word felt strange, dangerous, but also right. She wanted to speak, but before she could, a low rumble shook the ground. The walls vibrated, dust falling from the ceiling. Daniel's eyes snapped upward. "Reinforcements," he muttered. "They'll know their soldiers are dead." Serenya's breath caught. "They will send more, stronger ones." Daniel helped her up again, his arm around her shoulders. "Then we can't stay here. We move. Now." They stumbled down a narrow tunnel at the back of the chamber, the air colder, the light dimmer. The ground sloped downward, leading them deeper. Into the ruins behind them, faint echoes grew louder. More soldiers. More hunters. Serena leaned against Daniel, her body weak, but her eyes sharp. She whispered, almost to herself, "We cannot fight them forever." Daniel's grip tightened. "Maybe not, but we'll give them a fight they'll never forget." They pushed forward until the tunnel widened again. The new chamber was vast, filled with broken alien machines, glowing faintly with leftover energy. Old engines hummed with strange power. Serenya's eyes widened. "This place was once a power core. My people used it long ago." Oh God. Daniel scanned the room, already thinking, "If we can overload it, maybe we can create a distraction. Buy time to escape." Serenya hesitated. "Overload it. That could destroy us too." Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady. "Better that than being hunted like animals." She stared at him, searching his face. His determination was unshakable. For the first time, she felt a spark of something dangerous. Inside herself, not just trust, but faith. The rumble of footsteps echoed again, closer now. The soldiers were coming. Serenya placed her hand weakly on the glowing machine. "Then let us do it together." Daniel gave a short nod. He moved to the other side of the chamber, searching for the controls. Sparks lit the air as he worked. The danger was growing with every second. Their enemies were closing in. But in that moment, something had changed. They were no longer enemies. It's no longer just human and alien. They were partners, and together, they were about to turn the hunt into. A storm dot the machines hummed with a low, broken song. Sparks leaped from the old power core, throwing brief flashes of light across the chamber walls. Daniel's hands moved quickly over the controls, pulling wires, forcing circuits to life. Serena watched him, her body weak against the wall. Every movement he made was desperate but precise. She could see the sweat dripping down his temple, the way his jaw stayed tight with focus. Finally, Daniel pulled back. The core began to glow brighter, its hum rising to a dangerous pitch. "That should overload in a few minutes," he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes told another story, fear hidden beneath iron will. Serenya's stomach twisted. "If it explodes, you will not escape in time." Daniel gave her a faint smile, the kind that carried more sadness than hope. "Then maybe I won't, but you will." Her chest tightened. "No, yes," he said firmly. He stepped closer, crouching in front of her. "When the blast starts, you'll run through the east tunnel. It leads outside. You'll have a chance." She shook her head, weak but stubborn. "You cannot order me, human. I will not leave you." Daniel's eyes softened. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his hand reached out, brushing lightly against her arm. "I didn't save you just to watch you die here." Her throat tightened. Words caught like stones in her mouth. She had never heard such honesty from anyone, not even her own people. But before she could answer, the sound of marching footsteps echoed again. More soldiers. The enemy was closing in fast. Daniel stood, weapon in hand. "They'll be here any second." Saranya's eyes darted to the glowing core. The hum was louder now, the chamber trembling with unstable energy. She knew what would happen when it reached its peak. The explosion would tear everything apart, enemies, machines, even themselves. She looked at Daniel's back as he stood, ready to face death. For the first time, she truly understood this man would rather die protecting her than save himself. Her heart ached. The soldiers burst into the chamber. Energy beams lit the dark, slicing through smoke. Daniel fired back, moving fast, using the machines for cover. He struck down one soldier, then another, but more kept coming. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The machines screamed louder. The explosion was close now. Saranya's mind raced. If she stayed, they both would die. If she left, Daniel would fall. Alone, her people had abandoned her once. They had left her to die without a thought. Now she faced the same choice, but from the other side. Her breath shook. Her hands trembled. But in her chest, something fierce began to grow. She pushed herself to her feet, forcing her weak body to move. Her wound burned, her legs shook, but she ignored the pain. Daniel turned, shocked. "What are you doing? You need to run." "No," she said, her voice stronger than before. "Not without you." He opened his mouth to argue, but before he could, she pressed her hand against the control panel. Strange alien symbols lit up beneath her touch. The machines responded to her in ways they hadn't for Daniel. Sparks danced, the hum grew louder. The core flared with dangerous light. Daniel's eyes widened. "You'll kill yourself." Saranya's voice was calm, steady. "Then I die choosing. Not abandoned, not forgotten. Choosing." The soldiers pushed closer, their weapons firing wildly. Daniel tried to cover her, blasting them back, but he couldn't fight them all. Then something incredible happened. The core surged with power, reacting to Saranya's touch. Energy wrapped around her like a shield. The incoming blasts struck the field and bounced away, protecting them both. Saranya gasped, but held firm. The machines obeyed her. Maybe because she was alien, maybe because she was desperate. Daniel stared in disbelief. "You're controlling it." "No," she whispered, sweat dripping from her brow. "It is controlling me. I can hold it, but not for long." The energy inside the chamber grew wild, dangerous. The soldiers panicked, shouting, some retreating. The light blinded them, the power shaking the floor. Daniel ran to Saranya's side, grabbing her arm. "If you stay connected, you'll burn." "Alive." She looked at him, her eyes fierce despite her weak body. "Then take my choice, human. Run, live. Tell them we were not monsters." Daniel's chest tightened. He had never felt such fire in anyone before. Not in his own people, not in his commanders. He shook his head violently. "No, if you fall, I fall. I will not leave you." Her lips trembled. For a moment, she wanted to argue. But then, something inside her broke free. She saw the truth in his eyes. He was not lying. He meant every word. The glow of the core grew unbearable. the walls cracked. The roar of energy filled the chamber. Daniel grabbed Serenia, pulling her away from the controls. She screamed, the energy tearing at her, but he held her tight. Together they stumbled, running toward the east tunnel as the machines reached their breaking point. Behind them, the core erupted with blinding light. The explosion tore through the chamber, chasing them like a wave of fire. Daniel shielded Serenia with his body as they dove into the tunnel. The blast roared past, heat scorching their backs, but the tunnel held. When the rumble finally faded, silence returned. Dust rained down, the air thick and choking. Daniel coughed, pulling Serenia close. She was pale, barely conscious, but alive. Her eyes fluttered open. She whispered weakly, "You should have left me." Daniel shook his head, his voice rough, but firm. Never. Her lips curved into the smallest, faintest smile. Then maybe I was wrong about humans. And with that, she closed her eyes, not in surrender, but in trust. The choice had been made, not his. Hers. The tunnel shook with aftershocks. Dust rained from the ceiling as Daniel stumbled forward, Serenia in his arms. Behind them, the explosion from the power core echoed like the roar of an angry god. The heat still clung to his back, the air thick with smoke. Daniel's lungs burned. But he didn't stop. Step after step, he carried her through the darkness until, finally, a faint light appeared ahead. Daylight, he pushed harder, his muscles screaming with pain. At last, he emerged from the tunnel, stumbling into the open air. The world outside was broken. Mountains of rubble stretched across the horizon. Fires still burned in the distance, smoke painting the sky black. It was not freedom, but it was. Air cold and sharp, filling their lungs. Daniel lowered Serenia gently onto the ground beside a broken wall. She was pale, her breathing shallow, but her eyes fluttered open. "We survived," she whispered. Daniel gave a faint, tired smile. "Barely, but yes, we did." For a long moment, they both sat in silence, listening to the distant crackle of fire, the low rumble of the earth settling after the blast. The battlefield was quiet now, but both knew it would not last. Serenia turned her head weakly to look at him. Her voice was soft but steady. "You could have left me, many times. But you did not." Daniel met her gaze. His voice was firm. "Because I don't abandon people, not even those the world calls my enemy." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then, maybe. Humans are not as different as I thought." For the first time, she did not see him as an enemy. For the first time, she saw him as something else, an ally. Maybe even more. But the moment of quiet did not last. From the ruins behind them came a faint, sharp sound. A steady beep. Daniel's head snapped around. His heart sank. On the wrist of one of the fallen alien soldiers, a device flickered with a small red light. A tracker. His stomach tightened. "They know where we are." Serenia's eyes widened. "No, they sent the mark. My people will come, not just soldiers, hunters." The weight of her words hung heavy in the cold air. Daniel clenched his fists. His body was already broken with exhaustion, but his mind sharpened like steel. He looked at her and saw the fear she tried to hide. "Then we can't stay here," he said firmly. "We move again." He lifted her carefully, cradling her against his chest. She was light, almost too light, her strength fading. But her eyes stayed locked on his, fierce even through the weakness. "They will never stop," she whispered. "Not until I am dead. Not until you are dead for helping me." Daniel's voice was steady. "Then let them come. They'll learn what happens when they hunt us." The ground shook slightly as distant engines rumbled. The faint sound of approaching ships filled the sky. Serenia's breath caught. She knew that sound well. Not ordinary patrols. Not simple soldiers. This was the sound of War Machine's hunters sent to finish what others could not. The wind whipped around them, carrying the smell of smoke and metal. Daniel adjusted his grip, scanning the broken landscape. His mind raced. He needed shelter, a plan, anything to keep them alive. Serena closed her eyes, listening to the distant roar of her people's machines. For so long she had been certain she wanted death, certain there was nothing left worth living. But now she wanted to live, not just for herself, but for him. She opened her eyes again, her voice weak but filled with fire. "Daniel, I will not let them take you, even if it costs me everything." He looked down at her, his jaw tight. "We'll face them together, no more sacrifices. No more one of us left behind." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the war outside seemed far away. It was just them, two broken souls who had found each other in the ashes of war. But then a shadow moved across the ground. Daniel's eyes shot upward. Through the smoke-filled sky, a massive ship descended, black and sharp, its engines screaming. Strange symbols glowed across its hull, marking it as something different from the soldiers they had faced. Serena's blood ran cold. She recognized the mark. "No," she whispered. Her voice shook with fear in a way Daniel had never heard before. "It is him." Daniel frowned. "Who?" Her eyes filled with dread. "The one who ordered me left behind. The one who calls me traitor, my commander." The ship's shadow grew darker as it landed among the ruins. The air trembled with power. A ramp lowered slowly. From the smoke stepped a tall figure, armored in black, his eyes glowing with cruel fire. His voice carried like thunder across the broken land. "Serena, you should have died where I left you." Daniel shifted his grip on his weapon, his heart pounding. He pulled Serena closer, his body between her and the figure. The commander's gaze shifted to Daniel, twisted smile on his face. "And you, human, you dare steal what belongs to us. For that, you will suffer." The air grew heavy with the promise of violence. Daniel raised his weapon, his voice hard as stone. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The commander laughed, the sound echoing across the ruins. "Then so be it. Let us end this game." The battlefield trembled as new soldiers poured from the ship, weapons blazing with light. Serena gripped Daniel's arm, her whisper sharp in his ear. "We cannot fight him, not yet." But Daniel's eyes never left the commander. His voice was steady, unyielding. "Then we'll run. But one day, Serena, one day, we'll come back for him." The engines of the ship roared, soldiers surrounded them, and the world, once again, lit with fire. The chase was not over. It was only beginning.